So, welcome everyone to the Ballymaloe Festival of Food podcast, and we're here today in the old Ford factory. It's the headquarters, right?
Well, not so much. No, it wasn't the Ford factory. It's their office, their head office.
Their head office.
Yeah. So the factory actually was down where the Marina Market is now, and that direction, and it was amazing actually. But we were down there.
Brilliant. Okay, well, Joleen, I should have got my facts right, but what I do know is that this is the
well, you're in Ford's head
Cully
office.
And
and Cully Sully head office.
Cully and Sully head office. And, well, for those of you who don't know them, these are two amazing friends who really love good food, brilliant ideas, and I think you probably turned these ideas into one of Ireland's most recognisable food brands.
For those who don't know, Cully and Sully started back in the early 2000s with a simple idea: make good, honest food that tastes homemade but is easy for busy people to enjoy. First, they made the pies.
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to let you tell the story because it's much better, obviously, if it comes from you and me. And has become one of Ireland's best-known brands, selling soups and pies and
risottos. And broths.
Mm-hmm.
And we're missing one.
As the wife of Cully, I should really just be able to go snap and list up everything they've ever produced.
Yeah, well, I think we've got a really nice little insight and a special podcast for you to listen to here today, because you are the wife of Cully, and I suppose I've known you guys for a long time as well. So I'm really hoping that today we can dig into lots of different things, like the friendship, the creativity, the legacy, the brand, all those things that really make Cully and Sully what it is today.
I might say that with the Ballymaloe Food Festival coming up, I'm actually Cully here, the husband of Bree.
So the tables have turned.
I'd say watch this space and see how that works out for everybody.
Yeah, and I've just walked in the door today and I heard the news that actually you were stepping away as well from the brand. So that's very sad to hear, but I'm sure it's also very exciting for many other things that you've got in the pipeline.
Let's see.
Let's see. So I suppose that's a great question to maybe start with. Like, let's go right back to the beginning. Can you remember those early days, and maybe more specifically those early pies?
Yes. I remember being young.
How old were you?
27. Both of us are pretty much the same age. There's a week between us.
Okay.
So yeah, we were 27 and hadn't a bean in our pocket. And actually, I think that's probably the best way to start any business, because you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah. So we both really wanted to start a business. I think that was probably always going to be in food. We really hadn't a clue about what the road ahead entailed. But as I say, Cully says that, I always say, I think one of the best things in business is to be completely naive and to throw yourself in. But we had I don't think we ever really thought that we'd fail. We always thought that, there'd be a way. And even when we started with the pies, which were a wonderful product, they were a success. They're still there now. But they never really got to the stage that stage the soups got to. So the pies, I always think, were kind of like 90% correct. Whereas the soups, for a product to really work, it has to be 100% correct. And there's a bit of magic in that. So like our pies got to about kind of €700,000 turnover, that kind of area, which was a huge amount of money for us. And that sounds like an awful lot of money, right? But when you're making sense of that, right, you're not really paying yourself. Like, in the food game, because the retailer's taking half the margin and got to pay the obviously suppliers and all that kind of stuff. So that stage we weren't really making anything. And then 2 years into it, we launched the soups. And kind of my ambition for that was that it might get us over the €1 million mark. And then, all those extra cents would help to mainly be, because we didn't pay ourselves at the start. We just didn't. Now that was good in that we never accumulated any debt. We started off with a €100,000 loan, but we paid that back relatively quickly once we learned about the whole idea of compound interest, because neither of us had any mortgages.
What's that?
Yeah, mortgages before we started. So again, even learning finance and having a loan and what that actually means. And I talk about this, that Cully and Bree were living in their house in Rockcliffe in Ballycotton, and so we started the business in September. Was probably when we drew down the loan, and we were paying off €2,000 a month. And then I remember being in their kitchen.
The head office was the office wasn't even a head office. a children's bedroom with a desk in it.
Oh my
was the
goodness,
office for Cully and Sully for
I didn't know
years.
that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I heard a great story from Anne, who was our financial accountant, who's actually retired now.
Yeah.
But she was saying she came to work and she just was just recounting this story just 2 days ago, and she goes, yeah, I arrived down and I asked them what time I should start, and they said, oh, come down after lunch. And then the second day I was coming down to work, and Cully rang me and he goes, sorry Anne, I won't be there, but just help yourself to the kitchen.
And the back door was always unlocked so people could just come and go to the office as they pleased.
Oh my
So yeah, that's what it was like back then.
Sorry, Sully, I cut you.
No, not at all. No, but we used to learn about everything.
Yeah.
I could just finish off the compound interest story. The loan went from 100,000 euros to 104,000, I think it was, even though we were paying off 2,000 euros a month. I was going, holy shit, how does that work?
Yeah.
So we had to learn about finance. We didn't understand the whole idea of branding. That was something that really came into it. In terms of food, obviously Cully's family and Mrs. Allen and Rory O'Connell, Cully's late mum Hazel, all travelled to the factories we initially produced in France. I didn't know how to make a shepherd's pie. If you'd said to me, "Sully, make a shepherd's pie," I wouldn't have had a clue what to do.
Do you know now?
Now I know how to make a shepherd's pie. But I didn't know, and I remember, there's this whole thing about being the shoulder of lamb and blah blah blah, and I was like, yeah, whatever, just make the pie. But so we were very very capable hands in terms of the food thing. And then I think one of the good things that we always did was we always asked for advice. And I think that first year before we launched, we spent the year of 2003, probably 2004, talking to people. Yeah.
And I always think, actually, if any food producers that we meet through the festival or anything else ask me about Cully and Sully or advice, it's to speak to people and to speak to people who've been in the business before. I think you used to call them the grey-haired brigade.
The grey-haired, yeah.
And I always remember Cully and Sully, especially Sully, always talking about the grey-haired brigade and getting advice going up, and people who've been there and done that.
And don't make the same mistakes twice.
Did you have a vision? Like, did you kind of think about what you were building, or were you just kind of like throwing caution to the wind and going for it?
I think there was a vision in a broad sense, and I think probably the building of the brand. When I say the building of the brand, the manufacturing, because obviously we were a year beforehand we launched, we were developing the brand and trying to make this brand work. And I mean, Cully and Sully was not, didn't exist. So we were trying to work out what we were going to call this business. And I think probably a bit of vision, and we probably learned an awful lot as well, speaking in context of that last conversation about, branding and all that stuff, as we worked with an agency. And it's where we spent most of our money at the beginning. Most of our 100 grand went basically on building the brand and buying a camper van. That was good.
Priorities in the camper van.
Yeah, absolutely. And then crash it into the stores, and that'll give you loads of free PR. But really, I think, that creates then the vision, doesn't it? Because you're creating a picture. Yeah. So, our blackboard look and, what we're trying to create, I remember thinking, are we kind of Marks and Spencer's-y, or are we like somewhere in the middle, or are we blackboardy? And I was like, and recently we were talking about that, and I was like, no, we're not, we are a farmer's market, we're not a fancy restaurant. Even though we often say we're restaurant style, we're kind of high-end, fun. We're talking about, you were saying humour, but actually the word we always used was fun, to try and get, it's just an energy, maybe. That's what it is. Like,
fun, friendly, but I definitely see that wit and that humour and that warmth that comes across in your brand.
And fun is a word. Yeah. Taste, trust, and fun. They were our 3 words.
Maybe we might come back to that, but I'd love for people who don't know the story of how you actually met. You're how many weeks apart did you say in age?
1 week.
1 week. Exactly 1 week.
So,
I'm older.
How do you know each other? And whose actual brainchild was this? And what's it like then? I feel that you're very different in your backgrounds. That you Cully come from a creative background, so you're more of a business background. What's it like when you kind of merge those two together? So there's a lot of questions in that one.
There's a lot of questions. So just take one bit of it, then Sally can take another bit of it.
Okay.
We were in college. We weren't in college. We shared a house in college, as opposed to we were in college together. I was actually in Crawford studying fine art, and Sally was studying food business. And we knew each other. We're both from Middleton area, and we knew each other through friends, through mutual friends. We might have known each other through times. We don't really quite know how we first met, actually, but when I turned 16 or 17, I started hanging out with my old friends from Middleton Primary School, who were then friends of Sully. So that's how we kind of got to know each other. But when we were in college, quite a nice story was we talked about bringing out a range of stocks, which actually, just to get the plug in there, we're looking to do now. How many years? 30, 25, 21 plus 22 years later. No, because college was 10 years earlier. 35 years later, we're looking to bring out a range of stocks. So we did talk about, actually, when we were in college together doing it. And then Sully's mum had a food business, the Granary food store. And, in the market then, Tesco, Sully would be much more aware of this, and he can continue a bit more about it, but Tesco's had just brought out that black and silver finest ready meals. Marks and Spencer's were doing what they were doing, and the Irish supermarkets couldn't really, compete. So one brand to cover Dunn's and Super Value, and of course the same at that time, Super Quinn, for a premium product was kind of where we saw the opportunity, and it was, and hence the ready meals as opposed to soups. So that's kind of, that was kind of the beginning of it. And Sully rang me and said, "Do you want to bring out?" He actually rang me and said, "Do you want to?" I don't know why he rang me. I was an artist, like, There
must have been something.
You knew how to cook, maybe. You'd done the cookery course.
I think it must have something to do with your food background as well.
Sully, why did you ring me?
It was a great crack. I think when I think back to those times when we were starting and we were down in Cully's, your grandparents' or granddad's house down in the bog house, I think there was for me anyway, there was a huge naivety about what we were doing, and I think though in terms of the partnership, we both evolved. We grew a huge amount and evolved a huge amount into our roles. And even though while it's easy to say I'm kind of a business person, he's a food person, we both merge very much on all of those in all the aspects of the business. And I think though that over the years, what I've learned anyway is how within business, there's all the different strands, sales, marketing, operations, whatever, is that you can be very good at one of those. So for example, we always had very good logistics. But we were fortunate to come across a business in Northern Ireland called PRM who were amazing at logistics. And we very much learned that they were good at that. In terms of sales, everyone thinks they're good at sales, but actually I learned that I'm not very good at sales, and that other people were better at sales. I think we did a very good thing, and with the retailers, that they liked us, but getting into the UK market or that that was difficult. But Rena, who came to join us, was very good at sales. I think we were very good at them. I think that our real strengths were in the marketing and the NPD. But even within the NPD, Ivan came in. New product development. So developing the soups, etc. We were both good at it, but we were very lucky that we had Cully's cousin Ivan, he's a magician. Do you know what I mean? His ability, he has a sixth sense when it comes to that, as Cully and all his family do.
We worked with my grandmother.
And his grandmother.
Remember, she walked around Fleury Michel when we made our pies in France for the first 3 or 4 years. We made them in France, and my grandmother Myrtle walked around the entire place and was unbelievably impressive. I mean, it was a really impressive place. So, and Rory O'Connell, to give him his due, he in the very early days came and around the factory helped us develop the shepherd's pie and the fish pie. And I remember the French they tasted the fish, they made the fish pie and the shepherd's pie then, according to our recipe and all the rest of it. And they brought out the fish pie and they were really happy with it and all the rest of it. And then they brought out the shepherd's pie. They just don't do lamb, potato, like shepherd's pie. They do pommentier de canard, basically a duck shepherd's pie, if you like. But they were just like, this is disgusting. And actually it was pretty bad. But Rory O'Connell said, listen, you know what I'll do? I'll go there and I'll make it with you later. And then they preferred it, but it wasn't their taste bud. But we were used to, we always got a very, very high-end chef to help us develop. And obviously I did the cooking course. I'd been working in a restaurant actually with Ivan, who that's where I worked before we started Cully Sully. But it was really important to us to get this, and you didn't get a chance to get your recipe right once. And actually, just on the other point there about, your question was about growing and all the rest of it, and studies that talk about sales. It's interesting. I think when you're the entrepreneur or the founder, you've got a story for a while. And we could play that, and there's nobody else who can play that when you start a business. We all know that. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're talking to the owner, whether it's Dunn's or whether it's PRM, like a distributor, or it doesn't matter. but actually probably, I don't think as I'm going here, but handing over that responsibility in lots of ways to Rena, to someone who was much better at dotting I's, crossing T's, having a very functional relationship with the buyers. We were always at the meetings and all the rest of it, but that was probably could have been a very wise thing to do in relation to getting the business to kind of go from being small to being big and letting us step back and do what we're good at.
I think that's an amazing point. Sorry to cut across you, but actually the fact that you looked for support within your family, your network, all these extra people, it's so important, like, to get all those skills in there, isn't it?
It is, and actually, just the only reason I'm bringing this up now is it's also really important when you're starting a business to keep your costs down. So you're fighting, like we meet a lot of people starting businesses and they've already employed 3 staff and they haven't even they haven't even made their first sale. You're just kind of like, guys, and the way to make it yourself is you learn it.
It was the 2 of us for the first 2 years. 3 years. Four. Rena joined in 08 actually, so and we started in 04.
4 years, And Ivan obviously helped, but he was consulting.
Yeah, but on that also, you had someone who was an accountant or a bookkeeper come in and help you. So actually, the things you really weren't good at, we
really weren't good at accounts. And that was very important.
But it's also a time thing.
There's a lot of money.
Without the bookkeeper or the accountant, you wouldn't have had time to do the marketing and the selling and everything.
And Cully Sully, every single month we had a management report that came out that told us exactly where we were. And so the bookkeeper did that really, or Sully did it with the bookkeeper, if you like. But the bookkeeper was only in 2 days a week, probably. I mean, obviously it grew over time. I can't tell you now. It was. I said, Anne, like she, in for one day, and we had 3 or 4 people before Anne. You know what I mean? When we were even smaller again, she started in 2008 as well. I'd say same time as Rena.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that this kind of like locking together of your creativity, your business skills, all that kind of really just became your strength and your unique selling point, really? Yeah,
I think that we had. And a lot of this credit will go to Cully. We had a lovely atmosphere in the office in Cull's house. Anne and Rena had both come from a business called Swissco, where I don't think they'd been hugely valued there. Well, maybe I shouldn't say it too publicly, but anyway. The business went bust, so it's okay. But there was a lovely atmosphere in Cull's house, and. Up until recently, Anne retired, and obviously there's been a lot of changes since we've sold the business. But no one ever left us. And we had a really lovely, and we would do anything for our team, and they'd do anything for us, kind of thing.
I had a bit of an emotional moment the other day. I was actually last leaving the office about a week ago, and I knew they didn't know, but I knew that I was heading on, and for whatever reason, I was just looking around because. So I talked about the office, and the staff would talk about the fact that we always try to have lunch together. Actually, one thing we really struggle with our new partnerships is having meetings at lunchtime. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting. It's not that serious in lots of ways, but it kind of goes against the grain. And people work hard, and I think it's really important for people to sit down at lunchtime and to have a bit of banter. And I think that's what retains staff. People do all these sort of crazy things to retain staff, but actually. People being friends, and you don't become friends over discussing Excel sheets. You become friends over Julie in the office telling you what God knows what celebrities done.
I think that's our biggest craving in life, really, though, is connection with other people and community. Find it and community. So fair play for keeping that in.
And it plays into the fun thing. Like the fun thing is genuine. Actually, this is another very big word. It's genuine. It really is. Everything we do, this conversation. It's really easy because it's genuine to the core. You know what I mean? There's it's just what we do. You know what I mean? It's not. There's no. We enjoyed a good Christmas party. We enjoyed we enjoyed actually getting the staff out. One of the reasons we always had good Christmas parties was we go to a really good restaurant, and you're bringing the staff out to somewhere that they just wouldn't eat. Like people don't go out to a Michelin star restaurant. No, you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And drink a €150 bottle of wine or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like. And the rest is
Can you tell me he's not answering to anyone anymore?
There was a half a second silence.
No, but they're good things to experience. And I think it's and at the end of the day, it's like you can go and drink 100 pints. No one in this office isn't drinking 100 pints, and they cost the same amount. So it is, but like those sorts of experiences are good, and not everyone's into food. Then you know what I mean. Everyone's in their mindset is they're thinking about food and they want it to be really good. And tastings, we get everyone who's interested. We don't force people, but and to come and taste the product that we're developing or whatever. It's keep it all inclusive, and we're very open plan office here.
Yeah, and it's a team of 13.
Anyway, I was leaving the office. My emotional moment. I was leaving the office, and I looked behind me, and Sully was just saying there that because we created the office in a way, and I probably did whatever. And it's all very kind of like I call it a workshop. The tables are all...
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's not black and white and shiny.
No.
It's much more like blackboards, and we were making do tables and stuff, and I was getting very sad as I walked out.
But of course, and I can see why you're sad, like, because it's just been such a journey, like, and part of that journey then as well, of course, was that big sell, so you guys scaled up, you sold to Hain. What did that teach you?
Well, so we sold to Hain, we did a 2-year earn-out, and then we did another year where we merged all their other Irish businesses into this one new entity.
Can I just ask one question, just for the listeners? How long did you own the company before you sold it to Hain?
Yes, we started in 2004, we sold in April 12, and then we did 2 years earn-out, and then we did 1 more year. So we were 8 years operating. Yeah.
And how did the sale come about?
So it was quite complicated. So I suppose we can talk about this now. So there's a number of things happening in the market at the time. So it was 2012. So we'd obviously been through the recession, the recession was still going on. And one of the main things for me was that Super Quinn had gone bust. And Super Quinn, while they were about 5% of the Irish market, they were a very large proportion of our sales. And so that was a real kind of alarm bells to me that they were gone, and they'd become part of Super Value. So the concentration of our market, like we're probably one of the most concentrated retail markets in the world. So basically, the fate of your business was in the hands of 3 big retailers, and then independents. But those 3 big retailers are 70-80% of the market. So you had that happening, and then also with Super Quinn going bust, you had the rise of the discounters, who are now a quarter of our market, where we don't really participate in. We do some stuff with them, but very, very little. So from that end of things was changing. We couldn't get the product off the island of Ireland. We tried really, really hard. We had mixed success in France. So that was one thing. So that was kind of in a way a macro thing. But then at a micro level, we were having huge issues with production. So we'd always outsourced our manufacturing, and that had worked very well for us. But we had huge problems with one of our manufacturers, and we moved from that manufacturer to another manufacturer thinking that would be the answer to our problems, and that was not the answer to our problems. So really, we were going to have to build our own factory, which we were prepared to do, but that would have been a nightmare. And it's not our core skills, not my core skills.
I'm not way off either of our core skills. Manufacturing is a very different mindset.
So kind of at the time as well, the company who we had moved manufacture to, that didn't work out so well for, they approached us saying, would we be interested in selling? And that kind of started the conversation. And we had very honest conversations with them, and they actually were complete, they really messed around. They were completely unprofessional. They know who they are if they're listening to this. And it was actually run by a very, very good guy in Marion, who was kind of looking after our interests and was trying to control the situation. And they were just, they're a big Irish co-op, and it was childish how they behaved. And so anyway, so at the same time, we had always been kind of, you're always talking to everybody, lots of different companies. And we had a relationship with the guys in what was called Daniel's Group, which became Hain, and they own New Covent Garden Soup, and a guy there called Rob Burnett. And Rob really liked our business, and then Rob had sold that business on behalf of a kind of a VC to Hain, and the guy who owned Hain was a guy called Erwin Simon, and Erwin loved the idea of fresh soup. He was an American, and just the idea of fresh vegetables, nothing else added. This is a healthy product that we should be able to take all over the world. So he wanted basically to own any kind of decent brand that was out there. So we basically, after the whole thing with this co-op had fallen, we made contact with these guys, because in my head it was kind of like going, I don't want to have a factory, can't get the product off the island of Ireland. Irish market is changing. Let's look at this. And we had a very honest conversation with them. We said, listen, these are our sales. This is our EBITDA. This is where we're at. Are you interested? If you're not interested, that's cool. We're going to go build a factory. And it was very, very direct, because we weren't going to spend 6 months dancing around and wasting time. And they said, we're interested. And I was like, going, look, it's a very, very simple business. This is how it would be valued. This is what we want. And they were like, and obviously there was a little bit of dancing around that. But that was very simply how it transpired.
In a way, it might be a very good lesson on why Americans buy businesses much more than Irish. Do you know what I mean? Like that's that's quintessential sentence over that. Like epitome of the American mindset.
It's a very good point actually. And something which I think is worth saying here is that when we were dealing with the Irish co-op, and in fairness, we got so these co-ops. This other part of this co-op is a fantastic organisation. But the mindset of the management, who were all paid huge amounts of money and whatever, right? Their mindset was, what if this and what if that, and the recession and whatever else it is, right? All this kind of like, not glass half empty, right? So I remember when we met Erwin for the first time, I said, there's a gigantic recession going on in Ireland, whatever it is, and this is where we are. And Erwin goes, Sully, I ain't got any rear view mirror. We're going forward right now. And on the second point on that, then he had a CFO called Ira Lamel. Ira had been head of EY in America. He was a very serious business guy. And there was an argument between the solicitors to do working capital. So basically how much cash you transfer over. And Ira asked me to ring him because the lawyers were kind of going backwards and forwards. And I just rang Ira and he said, Sully, can you explain to me why you think the working capital should be this way? And I said, whatever. And he goes, we're going with that. And I was like, oh, and I wasn't expecting him to go exactly with that. I thought there'd be a little bit of negotiation. So after we closed the sale, I said to Ira, why did you agree? And it was hundreds of thousands. I said, why did you agree so easy? He goes, Sully, if I pissed you off, we're not going to make any money together. I want you to be with me and we're going to make way more money together. Yeah. And we have made, millions for and that was the spirit. And that's the spirit of how the Americans, not all Americans, I'm sure, but how these guys were. I remember at the time, at 2012, when everything was so insular.
In fairness to him, and with Erwin and now Erwin's gone as well, but we continued to run the business together, with our Irish team without any real influence. I mean, obviously they kept an eye on our numbers, they gave us a budget we had to hit and all the rest of it. But and I really enjoyed running it, and I think I can sort of hold my hands up and say we ran it really well and really responsibly.
We hit budget every year
for the following few years, for the following 10 years more. 12 to.
That's so nice to be able to just kind of carry your own values and that teamwork and that culture that you've built.
And they appreciated us. I mean, Erwin, we were very close to Erwin, and he involved us in an awful lot of decision making, and he is a very, very good guy.
And then I suppose selling on from that then was the next big step. That was to Hain, was it after that? Yeah, okay. So how did you hold on to your values? Was that able to continue that, or did it change, or how did that evolve?
Well, they let us run it ourselves, so it's very easy to hang on to our butts. And as long as we hit our number, which is a very typical way of running a business, as long as you hit your number, they don't put on the pressure. You're good that way. But actually, slightly different angle on answering that question. I found it fascinating. Like myself and Sully built a brand, if you like, started a brand, by the way, and then it developed. And I remember, sort of say 2014 or something like that. So many years later, it was obviously all still very much 15 even, coming into the office and Gillian, who was in marketing or whatever, watching them write stuff, and they came in and they worked with us, and I was always fascinated how it grew. Yeah, it never went. Obviously there'd be a debate, or a conversation, or how we run stuff or whatever. But as it grew, everything grew with it. You didn't have to, it wasn't like you were saying, no, that's not the way to do it. This is the way the Cully Sully do it. That was never part of the conversation. It was like, oh yeah, let's do it like this. And then it's like, oh yeah, let's do this. And, everyone, I found it really interesting. It was like a child growing up. It does its own thing. And obviously you need to watch. It doesn't, do the wrong thing, but really 99% of it, I have always been fascinated, how it took very little actually to get that tone of voice, because I suppose we retained a lot of staff, you know what I mean? Yeah. They all bought into it,
It's your management style as well. Neither of you are particularly micromanagers,
no.
I don't think.
Yeah. No.
And you've allowed your staff to shine where they shine. And give them a voice, which is a really important part of.
And you get the reality is, provided the person is good, you by far get the best out of them, and we're very lucky that we can really get good staff here. And we were never in a rush to hire someone, so most of them came through kind of contacts or something like that. We did very little. We're only 13 in this office, like, you know what I mean? And
the Christmas parties might have had something to do with it.
We're not talking about Christmas parties anymore. So
it's a good lesson for me to listen to that about kind of letting go of control and seeing what comes out of it.
It's a very hard thing to do.
It's a very, very hard thing to do. For me, like as a one lady business, I love the control. I freak out when I have to hire somebody. But so I've definitely got a lot to learn from you guys.
I often wonder, things will go wrong, but I don't think they ever go quite as wrong as sometimes it can feel at the time. Like, you know what I mean? It's very hard to, and always things will kind of happen that shouldn't have happened. But really, if the direction of travel is the word that we've been hearing on, if that's going the right direction, all that sort of stuff, it falls off the side.
I'm curious to know now that you're stepping away, what do you think it's going to be like for you completely letting go of this?
Oh, I'll always have a soft spot for it. Like there's no doubt. And really, do you know what? I really genuinely wish it the best. Like that's like I'd love my children's children kind of to be going like, Dad started that. Do you know what I mean? And it's all over the world. Like that's for me is great. Do you know what I mean? And they'll be probably cursing us around saying, "Why get out?" So really, I'd much rather see him as success than it not being a success. That's for certain. I think for me personally as well, I think I've been wondering about it for a long time. I suppose you're always wondering about it after you're allowed to go, because obviously after the year out, you're kind of going, how long will I stay here? And and now I've been talking to people about it, and some people say congratulations, and so different people like without even thinking, and other people kind of go, oh my God, are you okay? And you know what I mean? Like it's funny actually. I mean, other people go like, is it a congratulations or is it like what? How do I treat it?
Yeah.
And it's good and bad. Like there's definitely no
bittersweet. I think
bittersweet. I prefer good and bad to bittersweet, but that's bittersweet is obviously the but there's no doubt I'll miss it. But even chatting to someone just yesterday, he was talking about having many restarts, and it's such a great thing to do, and I do feel like having a restart will be a great thing to do. So, and hopefully it will be. There's millions of ideas, and everything. That's the problem. The idea is actually deciding on one.
But if Bree has anything to do with it, she's got loads of ideas.
I'll start off by making sure that she's coffee in the morning before she goes to work.
It's a very good way to start.
Can I ask you a personal question? What does this mean for you now, Bree?
A home husband, imagine. No, he'll find something else to do and move on. I don't think you're quite ready for home husband, and I definitely aren't ready to have a home husband, I don't think.
The children are leaving school now, the children are getting grown up.
Yeah. So. No, I think it's an exciting door that you're just after opening, and I can't wait to see how it all evolves for you. What's it like for you, Sully?
Oh!
I know! You poor thing! You're left here holding the keys.
I've never heard of a
Seriously, what does this mean to lose your right arm?
No, it's just, it hasn't really sunk in, honestly. So even yesterday, on Monday morning, we was management call day, and Cully wasn't there, and I was like, oh, right, okay. And
I have to talk to him myself.
So it hasn't really.
We're laughing, but we're actually crying.
No, it hasn't really sunk in, and it kind of still about, which is great. So I haven't kind of properly kind of digested it or thought about it properly yet. But it is very, very sad, and it's very sad for the brand. It's very sad for the business, for the overall business, because we're a big business now. We look after Ella's, we look after Hartley's, we look after Linda McCartney, all those different brands, of which Cully has added and has the ability to add huge amounts of value.
And so we're as big in the UK as we are in Ireland now in terms of sales, which is quite an enormous achievement for an Irish company, actually, an Irish brand.
Yeah.
There's very few, even English brands in Irish supermarkets. So, in the fast moving sort of food end of stuff, obviously there's, once you go into ambient and dishwasher powder, it's all international, but that's sort of like
how many soups do you sell? Is there a stat you have on how many soups you sell a minute, or
Probably about 1.4 seconds. We sell a soup every 1.4 seconds, like day and night, 365
that's
days a year.
hugely successful.
Oh, it's a massive brand. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I haven't lost it. Like,
buy a postcard.
Yeah.
What would you write on it?
Enjoy your gardening. He's on gardening leave. So
And I love my garden.
He does love his garden.
He loves his garden.
We have a beautiful garden.
Yeah.
This guy loves his garden.
No, I mean,
It's way more beautiful than you, darling.
no,
Show house.
it's extraordinary what we've created, and I don't think it's the end. I hope there's something else that we'll do. I'm sure that there will be. I don't know what that's going to be, but I think as I say, it hasn't really sunk in properly. But what we have done, I think what we've done in terms of creating the business, but also we've both had a huge amount of learning in being part of this Hain thing, this Hain business over the last couple of years. And also, like for me, when we were looking at growing the business, we had tried to launch desserts. We had tried to do hot pots. We had tried, none of those things ever worked for us, right? And the idea of buying businesses, it's not something that we I think we were, 2012, like Ireland's still a very, very young country in terms of we've evolved hugely, right? But we were always speaking to people, as I said at the start, and we didn't decide, the two of us, to sell the business. We spoke to so many business people. I said, guys, what do you think? Is this a good decision? And we were very fortunate to be in the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, which gave us access to extraordinary people. And we spoke to umpteen of those people before we sold. And it was never really presented to me, and it's a regret that I do have, that we didn't pursue the idea of saying, okay, Cully Sully is a great success, park that over here, right? What business could we buy and bolt on to make this thing interesting? And also to diversify, because we had a huge risk with Cully Sully about manufacturing and retailing, as I've spoken about. And that's how Hain operated, in that they started off, Celestial Teas was one of their first brands in the US, and they just bought businesses. Sadly, they bought too many businesses too quickly, and they ended up with quite a lot of debt. But that strategy was not something that it never came across my thing. So I think that could have been a different avenue, but anyway, hey ho, that's that's where we are. But in terms of the Cully Sully business, like the Irish business, yes, it's grown organically since then. Really, we've launched lots of products, but the main success has been Ireland, has been the UK, and a lot of that, access was that the key to that really was Hain were there. Now we were very fortunate that we had this lovely lady, Paula Brady, who was an Irish buyer in Tesco, and she moved to Tesco UK. And these little bits of luck happen when you're in business, because we were knocking on that door for ages, and then Paula rang and said, listen, guys, you're in. And then we went in, then they delisted us, then we went back into the entire estate, and then we went into the rest of all the, so we're in like, I don't know how many thousands of retailers were, over there.
But even so, that reminds me sort of funny stories. When we started the business and we brought out our pies, what was the guy's name who basically worked for every retailer and listed us in every retailer?
Oh, Hugh Long.
Hugh Long, and I ended up cooking for his. Cooking him. He was going to propose to his girlfriend, a fiance at the time. So he asked me to cook his dinner for proposing to him.
Oh my god!
But talking about luck, like this guy, he went from Supergreen to Dunn's to whatever, and as he went there, he had faith in our product, and and that's what it is. The buyer in supermarket has to.
It's faith and it's genuineness. We're kind of coming towards the end of the time, but one of the really, I know.
I'm laughing at the fact we had all these questions, and really all we need to do is start talking, press play, and let them start talking. We didn't even need to be here, Joleen.
I know we didn't, but I think one of the really important things is kind of like the link here with the Ballymaloe Festival of Food. And maybe, Bree, you had some ideas there about questions in relation to the producers and the people who are attending the festival.
Oh yeah, so thanks. So any advice you'd give to a food producer starting out now? They're just starting manufacturing. Most of my food producers in the food festival are actually producing at home. So what advice would you give them to move it from producing at home to doing what you're doing with 1.4 seconds a soup is sold?
Just one.
That's a big question, isn't it?
But just one. Sally, I'm sure I have loads to say about that. But just one thing that I thought was quite interesting in relation to that question was if you take Ballymaloe Country Relish, you know, it started off as a restaurant, and we've met lots of small producers trying to move in, and it's a really, really hard step, and we were never a small producer. We went straight into retail, so it's a different business. But Ballymaloe Country Relish, that was quite an interesting example where there was a star product, and that's the one that you push in supermarkets. You don't try and have 19 different, because when a small producer usually has tons of products, because they turn up at a farmer's market, they turn up at a small shop, whatever, and you need one star product like that. And, you know, a relish obviously has loads of products now, but it started off as retail is very focused. It's all about numbers. You need to be able to produce that for a very good price. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be, you know, if people are producing it cheaper, you're not going to be able to compete with them. Do you know what I mean? I suppose that's the way it works. Yeah. But I think that's, you know, that's I think one thing that one way of getting into retail.
I think for anyone starting a business, whether it's food or anything else, I think you have to have an honest conversation with yourself and with maybe with some friends or something about the commitment that it takes to get a business to the level that we got our business to. I kind of, rightly or wrongly, say it's akin to doing an Olympic campaign. The hours, the time, the thinking, it's 100% consuming. So I kind of think that and it's okay if you have a business and you're working on it, you know, part-time, and you got kids and you got all that kind of stuff, you know, that's cool, right? And if you can make that work for you, that's really, really lovely, and be happy with that.
I know your limits.
That's wonderful. But if you want to do kind of what we're doing, or to get it to that level, the time commitment, the energy, the whatever is massive. It's not 5 days a week. It's not 8 hours a day. It's not 7. It's 7 days a week. You're thinking, you're sleeping, you're whatever. That's what you're doing. And so that's one thing. So you have to kind of say, you know, they talk about, you know, in any sport or any musical instrument, whatever, there's 10,000 hours required to get to that level. And that's really what's required with a business. It's no different. So there's that. And then the only other point then, which I spoke to her, said earlier on, is talk to people, mentors. Every single business, whether it's tech, food, whatever else it is, are the exact same. We start with a product, whether it's a sale or a service, and we develop it and we sell it. And everyone goes through the exact same problems. Everyone thinks their business is unique to them. It's not. And I look at, you know, it's fun, like when people met us years ago and we were chatting, you know, I could always feel this. They kind of knew that they genuinely felt we weren't going to succeed. I could always sense that off them, and we managed to push through. And I often meet people now, and I can see where they are in the journey, but they think that I don't know anything. I think they don't think I don't know anything, but they don't think that I know where they are. But I do know where they are, because you can see I know the journeys they're going to go on. We've travelled that journey, so don't think you've got to go on this journey yourself. If you've got to go on this journey yourself, you're going to make the mistakes, and each mistake costs money and time. So talk to people, and everyone's people think that, you know, reaching out to me or Cully or any business person, and Cully and I know hundreds have been very fortunate to meet so many wonderful people. There isn't a single business person that I know, from famous people right down to normal people, whatever, that won't help you if you have a question to ask.
It takes a great deal of courage to pick up the phone and cold call someone and ask for advice. Yeah. But if you can get past that, you're away. Actually, it's really an amazing thing to be able to do.
There might be people here for Bree to say what it's like to grow up. Sorry, 3 children. Bree works at the beginning of our business, and all that work that's studying, and all those thousands of hours with the birth of the child. They're all September.
Every time they release a product, I gave birth to a new child.
Ivan, the packaging, Ivan was there.
It's like we only have 3 children, just to be very clear.
The products that worked, maybe I should say, the products that succeeded, we had a
soups, the soups.
No, I think that's wonderful advice, though, and really, really true. And
can I ask one question before? Because I actually think this is a really interesting question, and I want you both to answer it separately. What excites you, Sully, about Irish food right now?
I think Irish food right now is on the cusp of a wave. It's amazing. You're travelling around, as we've been very fortunate to do. What we have here, you know, again, I know it's what Darina says, and it's kind of cliche or something, but our raw produce is amazing. Our entrepreneurs that are coming through are amazing. You were at an event last week, and there's a guy, I've forgotten his name, Fergus, I think, and he's making hard kombucha, and it was just cool branding. It was a really good product, lovely flavours. There's a lot of cool stuff coming through. And also what's exciting is that they're not having to go down the traditional retail path. So a lot of people are doing B2C, straight in online sales, whatever, and that's cool. So it's and we really do have amazing food in this island.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think actually another thing I think that's doing quite well at the moment is the really good stuff. You know what I mean? Like there seems to be, whether it's restaurants, whether it's meals in supermarkets, whether it's delis, whether it's ever, like I'm being really good, it's generally quite expensive as well. So, you know, when that's doing well, that's opportunity for entrepreneurs, new businesses to come to market and all the rest of it, because people are willing to spend the money on the good things. So I think you know, it's a good time now. I mean, trying to come up with a unique product is very hard, don't get me wrong.
A unique product
but it's there's opportunities definitely at play at the moment, because people are spending money on the really properly good stuff. And I mean, totally, you know, our not only is our position with really good soil and really good agriculture here good already, but it's only going to get better in relation to the rest of the world. Do you know what I mean? So it's and hopefully become more sought after. So I think it is, we're in a good space at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm very excited to see where your career leads us next.
So we're sunny?
Yeah.
I think that kind of brings us to a natural end. Is there anything in there that you guys want to kind of like give a little shout out to?
No, I think the what's been lovely as well actually is the continual tie with Ballymaloe, because when we started, you know, we were bringing out ready meals. You know, everything was the antithesis of Ballymaloe's thinking of, you know, kind of slow cooking or whatever. And but we've maintained that lovely relationship with the Festival of Food and with the hotel and with the other the cookery school and the whole lot. And you know, it's been a lovely, you know, even the last eight years since we've sold, we're still there, and Cully's great at that. At all the events, he'll be giving out soup and stuff. I hate all that. And you know, it's been lovely to have that association the whole way through. It's been really, really special.
Maybe this is a good thing to end on. When we were starting the business way back, so it was just a concept. So before we ever launched, we were chatting to my grandmother and the Ballymaloe board, if you like, about the hotel board, about bringing out a range of ready meals. And I was like, I'm working with this guy, Cullen or Sully, whatever he was called at the time, and we want to bring out a range of ready meals, and we want to use Ballymaloe recipes. And she was like, and the rest of her family really didn't necessarily agree with this.
So this is your grandmother?
This is my grandmother, who's the entrepreneur, who really started the whole thing, who'd seen the world, who'd lived through it, who'd 6 kids, flipping the whole lot. And she goes, I've no problem with that, as long as the product is good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow. Can I ask you a last question? Come on there now. We throw the cat amongst the pigeons for this one now. So,
Jesus.
Guys, have you met Joleen?
If you could only have one soup for the rest of your life, what would it be, Sully?
A well-made white winter vegetable soup.
I thought he was going to say French onion. That's interesting.
Well made. When the white winter vegetable soup is good, it's an extraordinary soup.
What about
I could have only one soup for the rest of my life. It's a bit of a cliche, but our tomato, well, it's not a bit of a cliche. Our tomato soup changed the face of Irish tomato soup. It went from being that Italian sharp to a creamy tomato soup. And that basically, as it says on the pack, was stolen basically from my mother, borrowed in inverted commas. And I think a really good creamy tomato soup, oh my God, it's so hard to beat.
Bree over in the corner there is having a meltdown because you didn't say her soup.
Well, actually, no, Hazel's tomato soup. I'm right there with him. Hazel's tomato soup is something else. Yeah. What about my soups?
Bree's soups are very good.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, guys. I think that was a lovely conversation, and really looking forward to seeing you all at the Ballymaloe Festival of Food.
Well, I think we need to get them back up on stage at the Festival of Food. Well, in between working, he's going to be working at the Festival of Food.
I'll be on the door.
Meet and greet.
Thanks, Joleen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Joleen.
Joleen. Thanks, Bree.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
That was great.